When I started surfing back in the 80s, there weren't a lot of guys taking pictures of surfing, so I don't have too many pictures to prove that I was quite a competent surfer. But anyway, I started taking surfing pictures shortly after I started my photography career, and my brother was often the subject that I photographed. One day I walked down on the Strand beach, and there were a lot of guys playing around with tow-in surfing. So I managed to snap a few shots, and it was quite nice to see the fast action, the guys flying above the waves, which for me was always good fun to photograph. One of my pictures actually ended up as an ad on one of the surf shop buildings, so I was quite proud to see my pictures there. Back in, I think it was 2011, Geordie Smith came second in the world title race, and to say thank you to his sponsors and his fans and his supporters, he had a night shift sponsored by Red Bull down at Camps Bay, and I was lucky enough to go down there and meet Geordie and take pictures of Geordie and my son, and then obviously a lot of the tow-in surfing action, which was absolutely fantastic. I mean, to see the surfers fly above the waves, great action. I met a guy called Seth Hully there, which we became good friends, and it was just super fun to take these pics. Unfortunately, Geordie went in quite late, and the sun was already down, so it was quite difficult to get shots, but I guess quite an interesting color and lights, and it was awesome to take those pictures. When I turned 50 in 2015, I decided to pursue something that I've always wanted to do. I mean, I followed Kelly Slater's rise to fame from a very young age, being a surfer myself. So as a sports photographer, there was one goal that I still had, and that was to photograph Kelly Slater in a competitive environment. And Kelly was already in his mid-40s and was still challenging for the world title. He'd won 11 world titles before, so in my books he was the ultimate sportsman to photograph. So I decided for my own 50th birthday present, I'm going to get myself to J-Bay. My son was 15. We both had our birthdays in June, so we had caps made, we bought jackets, we actually had handmade knives made for our trip so that we could eat our steak every night. For 2 weeks we jumped in the car. We had a lot of fun driving to J-Bay, stopped along the route to take some pictures in some nice spots where I made some memories, places like Victoria Bay, where I lived for 4.5 years and surfed every day. And then in J-Bay, it was just fantastic to be there. I mean, the first night I went to the press conference, and I met guys like Adriana de Souza, Geordie Smith was there, Owen Wright was there. It's just fantastic to see all these surfers that I've always just followed on television, to see them in real life. I met Martin Potter, who was when I was a child, he was the first guy I saw do an aerial on the front cover of the Zigzag magazine. So to meet these guys, I mean, I met Mick Fanning, who after this trip I was an absolute fan of him. But the ultimate for me was to see Kelly Slater. And I remember the talk around town was that Kelly was still in Bali and he wasn't going to come down to the competition. He was doing free surfing or whatever, so I was pretty disappointed. So I remember one day I walked to the tower to just go and check the heats that were up and coming, because the contest wasn't on at that stage. And the next moment Kelly came walking past with a towel over his surfboard, and he just gave me a bit of a look, because I was probably looking like a 16-year-old groupie when I started photographing him. And I'll never forget that moment. I mean, it was for me the ultimate sportsman, and he just walked past me, and then for the next couple of days, actually weeks, all I wanted to do was take good pictures of Kelly Slater. I mean, he's for me the ultimate athlete, and to watch him warm up, to sit right next to him when he entered the water, to see him fly above the waves. I mean, he did on one wave, he did 3 aerials and landed all 3 on one wave. I mean, it's just unheard of. Also other guys, there were a couple of world champions in the water, just Julian Wilson, Adriana de Souza. I mean, these guys, all the Brazilians were there, and they were just flying. I mean, the waves were pumping for days on end, and all I could do was stand on the rocks, and every now and again I'd call Milan, and Milan would take the camera and he would take some pictures, and I could literally teach him to take pictures. I mean, I had a fun interview with Wazalewski on the rocks there. We had some fun and laughter and banter, and I met all the guys on the WSL who normally broadcast and talk. So for me to be there, I mean, it's just a memorable trip. And We also went to the Oakley crossover where John Smith and some of the sportsmen like Ryan Sanders and these guys were all playing golf and competing against each other and surfing, and I actually met Dale Steyn, South African cricketing hero, and took a picture of him while he was mountain biking, actually popping a wheelie on the back wheel while the rest of the Proteas were already in India on a tour, and that picture was running the burger quite big. It was quite nice to the next day see Dale again and chat to him about that picture that was in the newspaper. So incredible memories made through photography on that trip. I mean, the road trip for me will stand out as probably one of the most amazing, incredible times, sharing it with my son. We slept in the same bed for 2 weeks. I never asked him whether he brushed his teeth or was he wearing clean clothes or underpants. I mean, it was just a boys trip. We did boys things, we had a lot of fun, a lot of laughter, and we took some memorable pictures. So very thankful for photography. It gave me great memories on this trip, and probably the ultimate memory was to actually meet Kelly Slater. He was mobbed by kids and fans every day. Even when he was in the shower, people would talk to him on the beach shower, and he was just never on his own, but always made time for the fans. And I got my selfie taken with him. I got a nice picture of Milan and Kelly taken. And the ultimate, I got an aerial picture that I took of him, was published in the Burger. So really the trip ended on a high, and it's something I'll remember for the rest of my life. Just absolutely loved every second of it. Very blessed.